Alright, we are back with a new video, and today we'll be continuing with the Brantsteele series for Survivor. Today we have Survivor Marquesas up, and of course, we have all the original players on here. And if you've seen some of these before, it's the same as usual, but if you're new to the channel, welcome on board. Be sure to like and subscribe. And with that, let's get started. So right off the bat, on Maramu, there are no new alliances. Rob and Peter Harkey don't really like each other. That's sort of interesting right there. We see Vesepia and Sarah feel slight mutual dislike towards each other. They don't like each other. Sean and Boston Rob don't really like each other. Again, another really big difference from the real life scenario. Sean and Sarah Jones don't like each other, and a lot of people don't like Sean. Sarah Jones kind of likes Peter. Hunter and Gina kind of like each other as well. Vesepio and Gina don't really like each other. That's sort of interesting right there. Sean and Hunter don't like each other. Boston Rob and Patricia don't like each other. And we have Vesepia and Sean don't really like each other. So right out the bat, we see on Maramu a lot of differences from the real life scenario. People not really liking each other when they actually did on the show. That's sort of interesting right there. Moving on to row 2, there are no alliances there. We see the general have a slight bond towards Nalia. We have Zoe and Nalia not really liking each other that much. All right, that's not too surprising. Tammy and the general don't like each other. We see Zoe and Kathy don't like each other. We have the general and Gabriel kind of like eating each other. We have Zoe and John Carroll not liking each other. We have Nalia and John Carroll liking each other. All right, I can see that. We have Nalia and Kathy not really liking each other. And we also have Pascal and Gabriel not really liking each other, as well as Zoe and Tammy not really liking each other there. So we have our dynamics really set moving forward on row 2. And with that, let's get to our first challenge, where we have Maramu winning immunity. So right away, we have quite the difference from the real life scenario, with Maramu winning the first immunity challenge, whereas obviously in the actual show, they were a bit of a train wreck of a tribe. So it's good that they're off to a good start here. But let's get back to camp, where we see Sarah is impressing the rest of the team. Gina and Patricia bond slightly. We have Hunter is injured, but gets treated and can stay in the game. Well, that's a relief. Now moving on to row 2, we have Nalia impressing the rest of the team. We have Gabriel targeting Pascal. Whoa, we're already getting to the targets here. All right. Gabriel considers Pascal a challenge liability. All right. We have Kathy targeting Tammy also for challenge liability. We tend to see that as a lot in the early game, obviously. We have Tammy targeting Kathy. All right, so they're going after each other. We have Pascal going after John Carroll. Um, so yeah, it looks like it's either going to be Kathy, the general, or Pascal. I'd be very surprised if we're the general. But let's see what happens here. And with that, we get to our first tribal council with row 2 on board. It is time to vote. And with that, we have our votes. So, first vote, Pascal, 1 vote Pascal. Kathy, 1 vote each. Pascal, 2 votes Pascal, 1 vote Kathy. Kathy tied again. Pascal, 3 votes to 2. Pascal, all right. So it looks like we're going to get a Pascal boot here, unless Brantsteele wants to be interesting. All right, 4-3. Are we going to get a tie in the first tribal? Yes, we have a tie. All right, we have a revote now between Kathy and Pascal here. Will anyone flip their vote? I guess we'll see. So, first vote is for Kathy. Kathy. Yep. So, wow, Kathy is the first boo of the season. Not too surprising. On the actual show, she was kind of on the outs early on and was sort of benefited by the fact that Road 2 won as many early challenges as they did. That allowed her to integrate and build some bonds there. So let's see what happens. So we see right away that Gabriel flipped his vote on tie, obviously to avoid a deadlock. We have John Carroll voting for Kathy. All right. We have Kathy voting for Pascal. So, all right. So we have Gabriel, Kathy, Nalia, and Zoe all voting for Pascal. While we have Tammy, the General, Pascal, and Nalia voting for Pat. Well, yeah. Well, I was just kind of confused for a second. So yeah, I mean Gabriel and Nalia flipped their votes on the revote. Okay. Oh, and Zoe did too. So yeah, it was pretty unanimous, I guess. Interesting. All right, let's go on to the next round, where obviously we're now down to 7 on Rotu versus all 8 on Maramu. Let's move on to camp. There are still no alliances here. Boston Rob and Peter don't like each other. Giuseppe and Sarah don't really like each other either. Sean and Sarah don't like each other. Patricia and Gina kind of like each other. Okay. We have Sean not really liking Boston Rob. We have Sean and Patricia liking each other. We have Sean not really liking Gina. Sean and Hunter don't like each other. Boston Rob doesn't like Sean. I feel like a lot of this is just people not liking each other. But we have Boston Rob liking Hunter. Again, another pretty big difference in my opinion, where obviously in the actual show, Boston Rob was targeting Hunter from pretty early on as a way of establishing himself as a leader figure of Maramu. So it's interesting here to see Boston Rob kind of gravitate towards Hunter a bit. Moving on to Road 2, we still have no alliances here. Tammy likes Nalia. Okay. We have Nalia kind of liking Gabe. We have Nalia and John kind of liking each other. Okay. We have John and Gabe liking each other. Pascal and Nalia liking each other. All right. That's sort of like the real show. We have the General and John not liking each other. We have Tammy and John not liking each other either. Wow. So wait, so is everyone from the Road 4 just not liking each other? I mean, if that's the case, then I guess that kind of speaks to the type of season we're in for, but I feel like that's the case with all of these, so nothing too surprising here. Oh, and Pascal doesn't like John either. Tammy and the General don't like each other, and Nalia doesn't like Zoe. Okay. So with that, we get to our reward challenge, and as you can see here, Moramu once again is victorious. Again, they're really asserting themselves as a competent tribe, at least, and they win fishing gear, as you can see here. But what about the all-important immunity challenge? Well, we get to that, and the winner is Rotu. All right, so I guess they really came back for this one. All right, I can live with that. Back at camp, we see Peter Harkey and Sarah Jones having a major fight. Interesting. And then we move on to our targets. So, Sarah is targeting Sean Rector. Okay. We see Boston Rob targeting Peter Harkey. Peter Harkey's targeting Boston Rob. Okay. Sean is targeting Sarah Jones. All right, so going into this tribal, we see Boston Rob, Peter Harkey, and Sean Rector as the main targets. Interesting stuff. So with that, back on row 2, we see John and Zoe having a small fight, and then we get our first alliance of the seasons. So here we have John Carroll kind of instigating things a bit, but he brings in Gabe, Nalia, and Pascal. So he literally brings in everyone that wasn't in the road 4 originally, with the exception of Kathy, I guess. But that's interesting. So we have another difference from the real life scenario, and that's the only thing that really happens there. But let's get to tribal now. And who knows how this can go? I mean, this can go a number of different ways, but we see the votes are cast, and the first vote is for Sean Rector. All right. Next vote, Peter Harkey. Peter Harkey, 2 votes Peter, 1 vote Sean. Tied again, 2 votes Peter, 2 votes Sean. Peter Harkey, 3 votes Peter, 2 votes Sean. tied again. 3 votes Peter, 3 votes Sean. Peter, 4-3. Are we going to get a tie like we got in the last tribal? Yes, we will. All right, we have a tie here. Now the question is, will they go to rocks? I mean, that'll be interesting to see. So they can vote again. First vote, Sean. Next vote, Peter. Sean. Peter. All right, 2 votes left. Peter, 3-2. Second person voted out is Peter. All right, so I think this might actually be like the first time on the series where a first boot on the actual show is a relatively early boot on the Brantsteele. I mean, so that's interesting, despite the fact that we had a number of relationships turn out differently on here than on the actual island, we see at least some things don't change. It's a shame. I actually like Peter Harkey too. I mean, he's actually friends with Boston Rob, or at least was friends at a point. But let's see the votes here. So, as you can see here, we have um, Gina, Patricia, Boston Rob, and Sean all voting for Peter, while we have Hunter, Peter, Sarah Jones, and Vesepia all voting for Sean. And of course, we have Sarah Jones flipping her vote here. Did someone else with their vote? I guess it was just Sarah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, yep, she did to avoid a deadlock. Makes sense. So yeah, I mean, that was interesting. So with that, we move on to episode 3, where the tribes are 7 each. All right. So over on Moramu, there are no alliances. We see Vesepia and Sarah Jones not really liking each other here. We have Patricia and Gina kind of liking each other a bit. We have Sean and Sarah Jones not liking each other. We have Sean and Boston Rob not liking each other. We have Vesepia and Hunter liking each other a bit, but Sean doesn't like him. Hunter seems to like Rob. Patricia doesn't like Hunter. I mean, they don't like each other either. Vesepia doesn't like Gina. And we have Vesepia and Sean not liking each other. Okay. Moving on to row 2, we have our alliance, the new row 2 for, I should say. And we have some relationships. So we have Nalia liking Gabe, probably likes the blonde curly hair, I guess. Gabe also likes Nalia a bit, okay, but not as much as Nalia likes him, okay. Nalia and John Carroll like each other. I mean, they are in the alliance, so that would make some sense. Zoe and John Carroll don't like each other. Uh, John and Gabriel like each other. Pascal and Nalia, they're nurturing that bond that they had in real life. The General and Sean don't like each other. Yep. So, yep, it's pretty much actual row 2 4 members not really liking John that much, which is still kind of funny. And Pascal and Gabriel don't like each other. All right. So now we get to the reward challenge where the winner is Maramu. They win pillows, blankets, and 3 lanterns with fuel. Okay. But who cares about the reward challenge? What really matters is that all important immunity challenge. Who is going to come out on top here? And the answer to that question, my friend, is Moramu. So they will hold on to they will regain the lead, I should say. They will not fall down in the numbers like they did in real life. And that's good for them. Okay. So back at camp, nothing happens at all. Okay. And then over at row 2, we see Nalia and the General bonding slightly. We have a new alliance forming. Wait, hold on. Oh, so wait, so let me just go back to row 2. So, okay, so this first alliance, it was this core three of Gabe, John Carroll, and Aaliyah with Pascal as their fourth. But here in this new alliance, we see that same core, but now they're adding in the general. Okay, probably due to that bond with Nalia and Rob, Nalia and the general, I should say. We also see Tammy resting at camp to restore her energy, but will that put her in danger? And as we can see here, Nalia doesn't like Tammy taking a rest. She thinks she should be working harder in the challenges. All right. We see Zoe is targeting the general. Tammy's targeting John Carroll. Tammy considers John somewhat weak. Okay. And we see John thinks the same way about Zoe. Okay. We see John's first alliance targeting Tammy, and his other alliance also wanting to target Tammy. All right. So we see going into tribal that our three main targets will be the general, Zoe, and Tammy. And I have a feeling that Tammy will probably be voted out here, but let's just see. All right, so I think we'll see that 5-2 vote shake out here, but who knows? First vote, the general. Tammy, 1 vote each. Zoe, 1-1-1. All right, that's interesting. Tammy, 2-1-1. Tammy, 3-1-1. Just one more will do it. And the third person voted out is Tammy. Yep, 5-1-1. It's probably going to be those two alliances coming together. And as you can see here, we have Gabe, John, Nalia, Pascal, and the general all voting for Tammy here. And on the other side, we see Tammy and Zoe not really having much going on here. I mean, they just seem to be voting out of personal preference here, not really thinking much strategically, not really offering much in return. So, yeah, I mean, that's that. And with that, we get episode 4. All right, we see here we have a 7-6 lead by Maramu. Interesting stuff there. We have a twist. The castaways are asked to stand on discs. They must flip these discs to see their new tribe buff. The number of players per tribe stays the same. All right, so this is the weird tribe swap that happened on this season, where for whatever reason they decided to keep the numbers advantage from Rotu in that tribe swap, but obviously here on this Brantsteele, it's Maramu with the numbers advantage here. So looking at this new tribe, so on the new Maramu, we have Gabe, Pascal, Patricia, Boston Rob, the General, Vesepia, and Zoe. All right, and as you can see here, we have a 3-3. Wait, no. It's a 4-3 Rotu split. Interesting. So Boston Rob, Vesepia, and Patricia are now all in the minority. I mean, obviously, in the real life scenario, we saw Boston Rob and Vesepia going over to Rotu. They were in the minority there, along with Sean Rector. And over on Rotu, we have Gina, Hunter, John Carroll, Nalia, Sarah Jones, and Sean Rector. And obviously here, it's Maramu with a 4-2 numbers advantage. It looks like John and Nalia really got swap screwed here. Like it'll be very interesting to see if they can recover from this. But that is Survivor for you folks. So over on the new Maramu, as you can see, both of John, Nalia, and Gabe's alliances are fractured. Obviously, now Gabe has to rely on both Pascal and Robert. They will really need to forge a new bond here. Well, let's see how these new relationships shake out. So, right off the bat, we see Boston, Rob, and Pascal kind of hitting it off here. We see Giuseppe and Patricia not liking each other. Same as always. Rob and Patricia don't like each other. Yep. Boston Rob and Gabe don't like each other. Man. I mean, Boston Rob didn't exactly like Gabe in the real show, so that makes some sense. We see Zoe and Robert having not really liking each other. We have Pascal and Gabriel not liking each other. We have Vesepia and Pascal not liking each other. We have Zoe and Vesepia kind of liking each other. We have the General and Pascal liking each other. All right, that makes sense. And we have Zoe and Patricia liking each other a bit. All right, so that makes some sense there. Over on the new road to, we see John and Nalia kind of on an island together. How will they recover? All right, so we see Sean and Sarah not liking each other. I mean, there are definitely cracks that can be exploited here if John and Nalia really wanted to, like fit in. So, like, we'll see. So, we see right off the bat, we see Nalia and Hunter not liking each other, kind of like with Sean. But we have Sarah not liking Nalia. All right, we have Sarah and Hunter liking each other. Hunter and Gina not liking each other. Nalia and Gina not liking each other. Okay. So getting to the immunity challenge now, as you can see, John and Nalia will hopefully have some more time to build new bonds as they win immunity, sending the new Moramu to tribal council. Oh, oops. So over on Moramu, we see Patricia's impressing the rest of the team. Boston Rob, though, is targeting Gabriel. Pascal's targeting the general. Wait, why? Pascal considers the general a challenge liability. Well, that's weird. I guess they really turned on each other. Um, but the general is targeting Patricia, so I guess it's mostly one-sided here. We have Gabriel targeting Boston Rob. We have a new alliance form with Gabriel. Well, okay, they're already aligned. Yep, they're both going after Boston Rob here, so maybe that will incentivize Pascal to really hang on to the general for at least one more round. But Gabriel and the general, for some reason, are targeting Patricia. So there's some split loyalties going on here. I mean, it's sort of hard to tell. I mean, I would assume Patricia would be the more clear target right off the bat. Although we could see Boston Rob really finagle his way to break up a power player here in Gabriel. Over on row 2, we see Sean having a major meltdown. Huh. Probably from winning all the challenges, I can only guess. Over here and we see John leaving the alliance. So interesting. I guess he is cutting ties now. He realizes he's at the bottom and he needs a change. He needs a fresh start. He can't be clamped down by the old Row 2 ways. This could work out for John. I mean, obviously we'll have to see what happens. But first we have to get to the tribal council where we have votes to read. So, again, I think this will probably be either Boston Rob or Patricia, although I could see Gabe potentially getting swap screwed here. I mean, it really depends on how big of a threat they see Gabe as. So, with all that said, let's read the votes. First vote, Boston Rob. Patricia, 1 vote each. Boston Rob, up. We had 2 votes for Boston Rob, so that's 3-1. Patricia, that's 3-2. We are tied. 3 votes for Patricia. 3 votes Boston Rob. 1 vote left. The fourth person voted out of Survivor Marquesas is Boston Rob. Well, I can't say I'm super surprised here. I mean, let's take a look at the votes. So as you can see here, we have Gabriel, Boston Rob, and the general all voting for Patricia. But we have Pascal, Patricia, Sepia, and Zoe all voting for Boston Rob, and thus Boston Rob is toppled at the swap as opposed to at the merge, and he probably doesn't get on All Stars due to this. But here we now have a 6-6 split going to this next round here. Obviously we have our same old alliances here. Patricia doesn't really like Gabriel anymore. Interesting. Visepia likes General. Visepia doesn't like Patricia. It's kind of interesting how Patricia survived this. I mean, it makes me think she could be voted out next. As you can see, Gabriel also doesn't like Patricia either, so that makes some sense. The general kind of likes Vesepia. All right, we could see some blossoming stuff here with Vesepia. Maybe she could worm her way in with these old Rotus. And yes, even Zoe likes Vesepia. So, all right, this is pretty good for Vesepia right now. We see the general and Pascal liking each other. Man, Pascal and Gabriel though, they seem to be forming a bit of a rift. Interesting. Like they were originally an alliance and now they seem to be drifting apart a bit. Pascal likes Zoe, and Vesepia doesn't like Pascal. Okay. Moving on to row 2 now. Um, like I said, so interesting. So John and Aaliyah are still technically an alliance, but I think John is just no longer aligned with the general here. Interesting, but he still probably wants to work with Gabe and Pascal moving forward. So that's a bit interesting there. In terms of relationships, we see Sean and Sarah not liking each other. Nalia and John like each other. All right, that makes sense. Sean and Gina don't really like each other. Sean and Hunter don't like each other. Sarah and John like each other. Sarah and Nalia don't like each other. Sarah and Gina don't like each other. All right, so again, we're sort of seeing stuff solidify moving forward. We get to the reward challenge where we see Row 2 come out on top. They win the opportunity to raid the other tribe's camp, and they probably took everything, in all likelihood. But who cares? Moramu may be decimated. They may not have anything left, but can they pull it out in this immunity challenge? The answer is yes. They win immunity and one more day on the island. So going back to Moramu, we see Gabe and Patricia having a small fight. And on top of this, the general leaves the alliance. So now Gabe is really losing allies here. His position is quickly evaporating. And we see Zoe resting at camp to restore her energy. All right, we are seeing this a bit happening a bit on the season. Moving on to row 2, we see Hunter is impressing the rest of the team. Gina and John bond slightly. John and Sean have a small fight. And we see now Pascal has left the alliance. So I feel like we're seeing like all these power structures from the old Rotus kind of fading away now. I mean, I find that pretty interesting. So moving on to targets, we see Hunter is targeting John Carroll. Sarah is targeting Hunter. John is targeting Sarah. John is targeting Sean, probably due to the fight that they had. John and Aaliyah are targeting Sean. So going in, we see Sarah, Hunter, and Sean are the main targets, although it's kind of all over the place at this time as we see alliances kind of crumbling and it's unclear what will happen. But with that, let's get to tribal. We see the first vote is for Hunter, but will the rest of the votes also be for Hunter? I guess we'll have to see. So the second vote is also for Hunter. We see Sarah, so 2-1. We see Sean, it's 2-1-1. Sean, so it's 2-2-1. And the fifth person voted out of Survivor Marquesas is Sean. Interesting stuff there. So yeah, Sean got voted out here 3-2-1. And as you can see here, it was mainly Hunter, John, and Nalia voting together to take out Sean here. I mean, they really were able to rope in Hunter, so good on them. We see the other votes here. Gina and Sarah voted for Hunter, probably because, I don't know, they're probably thinking Hunter will be a big threat in the post merge. And we see Sean voting for Sarah, seemingly for no reason. Okay, so that happened. And with that, we get to episode 6. I can't believe we're still at the pre-merge here. Hopefully this will move a little bit faster now. So We see Zoe and Persephone liking each other. Yeah, but it seems like we have a lot of the usual stuff here. Although I mean, Persephone doesn't really like Patricia, doesn't really like Pascal, but seems to be on seemingly all right terms with the rest of them. Pascal and Gabe still don't really like each other that much. All right, so that's it from Aramu on row two. We see the fallout of the Sean blindside, where we see John and Hunter really getting close together, and he's also building a good bond with Gina. Like we see John doing some good work here. I mean, really getting into the majority, and even Sarah seems to be on his side a bit. And Sarah's also on Nalia's side, so good on John and Nalia for really working this out. Nalia also has something with Hunter. So yeah, I mean, I think John and Aaliyah, despite coming into the swap in the down in the numbers, they were really able to build something for themselves, and now they seem to be in a relatively good position. And things get better when they win reward. I mean, they win a meal of chicken, quiche, bean salad, dessert, and Sierra Mist. All right, that's pretty good for one day. But can they win that immunity challenge? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And good for them. They win immunity too. So with that, Aramu has to go back to tribal. We see Pascal and Zoe really bond. Okay. We see the general impressing the rest of the team, probably worried that the other Rob will be targeted. But in terms of targets, we see Patricia targeting Pascal, Gabe is targeting Zoe, Zoe is targeting Patricia, and we see it'll either be Pascal or Zoe going home here. All right. And on row two, we have a brand new alliance form with John, Hunter, and Gina. So John is really building something for himself moving forward, going to the merge. All right, back at Tribal, we see it is time to vote, and we see the votes come in. So first vote is for Pascal. Makes sense. Zoe, 1 vote each. Pascal, 2-1. Zoe, 2-2. Pascal, 3-2. Will it be a tie? No, it will not. We see Pascal getting voted out clearly 4-2. As you can see here, we have Gabe and Pascal voting for Zoe, but everyone else, Patricia, the General, Persephia, and Zoe, all voting for Pascal. All right, that makes some sense there. And with that, we have merged. Let's just click this so that we are merged into Soliantu. All right, so going into this merge, as you can see here, we have one, two, three, four. We have, yeah, so original tribe, it's split 5-5. Swap tribe, though, I think it's also even. I mean, we have one, two, three, four. Yep, so five swapped. We have five swapped from each. All right, that makes some sense. And with that, let's get into the merge. So right away, we have these alliances here with John, Nalia, and Gabe. We have Gabe and Nalia, John, Hunter, Gina. We see John kind of being in the center of things a bit. I mean, but Nalia and Gabe are also building something for themselves a bit here. We have the general having a really strong bond towards Patricia. I mean, it makes sense. They're both relatively older. We have the general and Gabe also liking each other a bit. We have John and Hunter really liking each other. We have Zoe and Besepia liking each other. We even have Patricia having a little thing for the general as well. Nelia and Gabe like each other. John and Gina like each other. Besepia and Sarah, though, do not like each other. And the same thing goes for Zoe and John. We have Nalia and John having a bond towards each other. So I don't think we're getting anything too fancy here. I mean, aside from the general and Patricia, we don't have too much in the way of new bonds here. So I think things are solidifying a bit. And as you can see, Gabe has won the first immunity challenge. I mean, I could see it from him. I mean, it's the one where they have to stand in the middle of the water. I mean, I could see him winning that. So with that, we get back to camp where we have Gina and Sarah having a minor disagreement. we have Nalia and Robert having something in common. So that's interesting. I guess that time away really gave them some new perspective, I guess. So we have a new alliance form of Gina, Hunter, Patricia, and the General. Interesting. Moving on to targets, we see Zoe is targeting John. That's not too surprising. We have Gabe targeting Patricia, probably getting threatened by her grasp on the General. I can only assume. Or he just doesn't like her. We have Gina having a slightly negative opinion about Sarah. We have John not liking the General. All right. We have Nalia having a slight negative opinion of the Sepia. So, moving on to the alliances, we have the Gabe, John, Nalia alliance really going after Patricia here. We have Gabe and Nalia going after Patricia. We have Gina, Hunter, and John going after Sarah. We have this new alliance going after Nalia. And so going in, we have three different targets. I mean, this vote could really go all over the place. I mean, I could see them going after Nalia due to her being such a big threat. But let's get the tribal. So as you can see here, Gabe has the immunity necklace. Probably not going to give it up. Time to vote. First vote is for Sarah. Trisha, one vote each. Aaliyah, one vote each. Patricia, 2-1-1. Aaliyah, 2-2-1. Nalia, 3-2-1. Patricia, 3-3-1. Nalia, 4-3-1. Patricia, 4-4-1. So at this point, we could either get a vote for Sarah to create a three-way or a two-way tie, or we'll get a vote for one of them and probably see the first person get eliminated. And the seventh person voted out of Survivor Marquesas is Patricia. Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Nalia had a power structure that she was able to hold together. As you can see here, we have Gina Hunter, Patricia, Rob. Wait, oh, no, I'm reading this wrong. So Gina Hunter, Patricia, and Robert all voted against Nalia here. On the other hand, we have Gabe, John, Nalia, Sarah, and Zoe all voting for Patricia, and Vesepia, for whatever reason, votes for Sarah. Doesn't really make a lot of sense there. But yeah, that was the merge vote. Moving on, we have the final 9 round. At this point in the real life scenario, this was where the big flip happened. But here, obviously, things are a bit more muddled. So here we have our alliances as usual. We have the General and Gabe having an unbreakable bond towards each other. Okay. We have Zoe and Vesepia really liking each other. We have Vesepia and Saren really not liking each other. We have the General and Nalia. We have John and Hunter. We have the usual stuff. Nothing's too different here. We get to the reward challenge. This was the kite challenge, and Hunter has won it. He has won a Snickers bar and a scuba diving tour at a coral reef. I mean, imagine just having one Snickers bar after literally starving for several weeks. I mean, that must be kind of awful, if I'm being honest. But who cares about Snickers bars when there's an immunity challenge, and the winner of that is Sarah? Okay. So back at camp, we see Gabriel and the General bonding. John has a major meltdown. He's probably pretty upset of not winning that immunity challenge, most likely. We have Sarah and Zoe finding something in common. But now we get to the targets where Sarah really doesn't like Vesepia. Zoe doesn't like John. We have Gina having a slight negative opinion of Gabriel. John doesn't like the General. Um, But we see Gabe, John, and Nalia all going after Vecepia here. We have Gabe and Nalia, though, wanting to go after Hunter, probably seeing him as a big threat. We have Gina, Hunter, and John wanting to target Zoe. We have Gina, Hunter, and the General wanting to target Gabe. And that sets up a 3 targets of Vecepia, Zoe, and Hunter. So I think this will be an interesting vote. I mean, obviously, I'd be very interested to see what would happen if Hunter went home here, but we'll have to see. So, first up, we have Sarah having the immunity necklace. Obviously, she holds on to it. With that, we get to the vote. First vote is for Vecepia, Hunter, 1 vote each, Zoe, 111, Zoe, 211, Hunter, 221, Zoe, 321, Hunter, 331, Zoe, 431. So we'll either get a Zoe boot or we'll have Hunter and getting another vote and tying Hunter. So we have a tie. All right. So we have a revote and Hunter, Zoe, Zoe, Hunter, Zoe, Hunter, 1 vote left. And the 8th person voted out of Survivor Marquesas. And the first member of the jury is Hunter. Yeah, I knew this would be interesting. I mean, obviously, this is a massive blow to John Carroll. And looking at the votes, we can see that Gabe, Leah, Vecepia, and Zoe all voted for Hunter. Um, we see Sarah. We see Sarah voting for Vecepia first, but then flipping her vote to Hunter on the revote. Then we have, the General, John, and Hunter all voting for Zoe. Oh, and Gina, too. So, yeah, I mean, interesting final 9 round. I mean, obviously, this is a kind of a flip, but we'll have to see what happens in the next round. So, final 8 now. We have our usual alliances here. We have Yep, we have our usual stuff here. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. Just scroll past it real quick. We get to our reward challenge, and this was the infamous coconut challenge, where the Road to 4 exposed their so they exposed their pecking order here. Wait, or am I getting confused here? Yeah. Oh, they would gather coconuts. They would split the coconuts open and let. Oh, no, no, no. This is different. So, all right. So, who really cares? I mean, Group 4 wins. That's John and Vecepia here. They win a Marquesan feast. All right. Sounds better than a circus bar, if I'm being honest. And then the winner of the so John wins immunity, and he probably needed it, if I'm being honest. Really needed time to regroup here. Back at camp, we see Nalia and Sarah bond slightly. We have Gina and John solving their alliance, probably realizing the need to break up a bit. And with that, we get to our target. So we have Vecepia and Sarah targeting each other. We have John not liking Zoe. We have Gabe, John, and Nalia targeting Sarah. We have Gabe and Nalia targeting Sarah. We have Gina and the General targeting Sarah. So we have Sarah and Zoe as our main targets here, but I feel like Sarah will probably be voted out as we see a lot of the alliances really wanting to target her. So that makes some sense. So we have John having the immunity necklace. And we have our vote. So first vote is Sarah, Sarah, Zoe, Sarah, Zoe, Sarah, and yep, it's Sarah. Voted out 6-2. Probably getting every vote except for Nalia's. Okay. So, okay. I mean, this is somewhat interesting here. We get to the final 7 now. So, we have our usual stuff here. We have Zoe and Vesepia having an unbreakable bond at this point. All right. We have Gabe not liking John very much. All right, that's kind of interesting. Um, we have and John doesn't like Gabe. Could this be setting up a vote? We have Zoe not liking John either. Seems like John is quickly falling on the outs here. We have Zoe also not liking the general that much. We have the reward challenge where John wins reward and he shares it with Nalia. Makes sense. I mean, they win a dinner and a shower on a cruise ship. I believe that that's somewhat similar to what happened in real life, where I think it was Pascal that won the reward and he brought Nalia along. I think that's what happened. I mean, I could be forgetting it, but yeah, I mean, I could see that happening. And then the reward challenge, where we have John once again winning immunity, probably needed it. This was the fire making challenge. So good on him for winning immunity. So back at camp, we have Nalia and the general bonding quite a bit. We have the general impressing the rest of the team. We have Gabe and Nalia bonding strongly. I mean, they were already aligned, but now they're really solidifying their bond there. We have Gina resting at camp to restore her energy. Well, isn't it nice? But in terms of targets, we have Vesepia not really liking Gabe. We have John liking the general, but is least aligned with him. We have Gina not liking Vesepia very much. We have Nalia having a slight negative opinion of Zoe. We have alliances. Gabe, John, and Nalia are all targeting Zoe. We have Gabe and Nalia targeting Zoe. We have Gina in the general targeting Vesepia, and so we have Vesepia and Zoe as our targets going into this vote. So now going into here, I mean, I could see Zoe going home here. I mean, Zoe has been more vehemently against John for longer in the game. I mean, he obviously is going to want to target her at that point. I mean, Vesepia hasn't really done much to harm his game at this point. But let's see what happens. So we have the vote here. John has the immunity necklace. First vote is the general. Vesepia, one vote each. Abe, 111. So, 1111. All right, this is interesting. Vesepia, that's 2 to 1 to 1 to 1. Zoe, we have 2 to 1 to 1. One vote left. Are we going to get a three-way tie? Nope, we have the 10th person being voted out of Survivor Marquesas and the third member of our jury being Zoe. And we have a 3 to 2 to 1 to 1 vote. Okay, so I'm wondering how this vote broke down here. So we have Gabe, John, and probably Nalia all voting for Zoe. We have Gina and the general voting for Vesepia. And we have Vesepia and Zoe kind of throwing away their votes there. But all right, that was an interesting vote. I mean, obviously, Gabe, John, and Nalia were able to get their act together there. But with that, we move on to the final 6 round. We have our usual alliances there. Oh, wow. So at this point, John and Gabe have extreme hatred towards each other. So it looks like we're having a collision course here. We have the General and Nalia having a mutual strong bond. So, okay, so Giuseppe and Gina don't like each other, but it seems like at this point, John and Gabe are the main rivalry at this point. We get to the reward challenge where we have Nalia winning an overnight stay at Soliantu Beach. All right. And then immunity, we have Nalia winning immunity. This is the hourglass challenge where they had to break the tiles to like to bury their tikis. All right. So back at camp, we have Nalia and Vesepia bonding strongly. We have John and Nalia re-solidifying their bond. John leaves the alliance. He is tired of Gabe running the show, and he wants to make a statement. Um, Vesepia though joins in their place. But Gabe is completely worn out. He is so tired of John surviving in this game that he just is done. But he is not giving up. He is determined to destroy Johnny Pots and Pans. So with that, we get to our targets, where Gabe is targeting John. John is targeting Gabe. No surprises there. We have the general targeting Vesepia for some reason. We have Nelia targeting Gina. We have the alliance of Gabe, Nelia, and Vesepia all targeting John. We have Gina and the general targeting Vesepia. And so that we have three potential targets here. We have Vesepia, Gina, and John Carroll going to this vote. This should be interesting. I mean, it'd be interesting if John got voted out here. But let's see the vote. So we had Nelia having the immunity necklace. First vote is for John. Vesepia, 1 vote each. Vesepia, 2-1. John Carroll, 2-2. Vesepia, 3-2. Are we going to get a tie? Nope, we are not. Vesepia, the winner of the season, has been voted out in 6th place. So that's interesting. So I guess Nelia couldn't pull the trigger. So as you can see by the vote, we have Gabe. We have Gabe and Vesepia voting for John Carroll, but everyone else all voting for Vesepia here. I guess they saw Vesepia as the bigger threat at this point. And that is interesting. So John lives again, and Gabe may be giving up, but we'll see. So with that, we get to our final 5. And at this point, we have 2 pre-mergers left in the game. We have 2 people from the Road to 4 that did not make it to this point in the game. And we have Nelia as the runner-up of the actual season, but is still hanging on. Makes sense. So we have our usual spiel of stuff. We still have John and Gabriel having their major feud. But Nelia seems to like Gabe a lot, and that is real. So that's interesting. So Nelia has an unbreakable bond towards John and Gabriel, despite the fact that John and Gabriel hate each other. And now she is kind of left in the middle, and now she has to decide. But John seems to be having more allies here, as he has the general in his back pocket. Yeah, we have this other stuff going on as well. I mean, Gabe pretty much has to win immunity at this point. I mean, if he doesn't win immunity, then he is in a lot of trouble. But we move on to the reward challenge. It is the second chance challenge, and as you can see, Nelia has won a Saturn VUE car, and now we know she's probably not going to win again. But for the immunity challenge, the winner of that is Nelia. So I feel like with that, Gabe should be kind of toast. I mean, obviously, he'll probably try to scramble. I mean, he does. We see him pull in the general into his alliance. See, going to the vote, we have Gabe and John targeting each other. We have Gabe, Nelia, and the general targeting John. We have Gina and the general targeting John. So it looks like maybe John will go home. I mean, we see John and Gina being the main targets here. Okay, so it looks like I was wrong in my assessment. I think John will probably go home now. So getting the tribal, we have Nelia having immunity. Time to read the votes. We have John, 1 vote John, John, Gina, John. I mean, I could see it. I mean, John, I mean, even outside Gabe, I mean, he was quite the target on his own. I mean, he definitely had a number of rivalries. I mean, not just with Gabe, but also with Zoe. I mean, he was just too big of a threat by the end of it. I mean, I think this season really allowed him to live up more to his potential than what he was shown in the actual season. Although I feel like that obviously was still quite the showing for him. But now it is finale time. and we have our final four. We have two pre-mergers. We have the General, and we have Nalia. I mean, I would assume Nalia probably has the best shot of winning at this point. I mean, unless Gabe gets to the end, he'll probably. I mean, Gabe might win if he gets to the end, but I think aside from that, I think Nalia probably has the best shot there. We have our usual alliances there. Yep, just scrolling on through all these. Who wins immunity? Who wins immunity? It's Nalia, because of course it is. She wins Fallen Comrades. And with that, we get to the vote. And will we get a rock draw? Will we get a rock draw this time? We see a new alliance form with Gabe and Gina. We see Gabe, Nalia, and the General are all targeting Gina here. I mean, Gina is kind of toast at this point. She doesn't really have much in the way of allies. We get the Tribal, and we should see Gina getting voted out here. So we have the General, Gina. All right. So maybe not. I mean, we have a tie here. I mean, we could see a rock draw. So we have the General, Gina. So yeah. Oh yeah. So it's a tie. So yeah. Wow. We're gonna get a rock draw here. Wow. We're gonna. So is Gabe getting eliminated here? No way. Ah, the General. All right, so that's interesting. So the General drew the purple rock. As you can see here, we have Gabe and Gina voting for the General, and we have Nalia and the General voting for Gina. Okay. With that, we get to our final three of Gabe, Gina, and Nalia. Obviously, the final three that everyone wanted. Not too much to say about back at camp. Wow, so Gabe might get to the end. Yeah, because he has a strong bond with both Gina and Nalia here. Yeah, Gabe might actually win this season now. Okay, but we have Hands on a Hard Idol where Gabe wins immunity. Who knows who he takes? I mean, he might take Nalia. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we see these two of these alliances targeting each other, like 9 strength, 9 loyalty. Okay. So it's kind of up in the air. Who's he gonna take? I mean, my gut says he'll take Nalia, but he could take Gina. Who knows? But it's time to read the vote. The 14th person voted out Survivor Marquesas, and the 7th and final member of our jury is Nalia. Okay, so he did probably the smart thing by voting on Nalia. I think Gabe might actually win this, but I've been known to say that before and be wrong. So, yeah, so with that, we get to our final two of Gabe and Gina. Obviously, we have our jury of Hunter, John Carroll, Nalia, the General, Sarah Jones, Civisepia, and Zoe. Again, I would assume Gabe wins this, but who knows? Time to read the vote. So, first vote, Gina, Gabe. Gabe, 2 votes, Gabe. Gina, we are tied 2-2. Gina, 3-2. Gina, 4-2. Wow, so Gina won 5-2. You know, it's weird. Like I'm always wrong with these. Like I assume one person is more strategic than the other, like generally because they're well positioned, but then like these like other people like turn out to be the more strategic forces on the season. So yeah, I mean, look in the jury votes, we have Hunter, John, Sarah, Visepia, and Zoe all voting for Gina, while Nalia and the General vote for Gabe. Okay. Peter Harkey wins the fan favorite award. I could see it. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And we have Gina winning. So yeah, here's our placement here. Yeah, the actual winner got decently far. I mean, sixth place isn't nothing, but I still find it interesting there. I mean, the first boot still largely ended up being the. By the way, how did he end up being the fan favorite as the second boot of the season? I guess he was just that big of a riot, I guess. But let's look at the stats. I mean, we have Nalia winning the most challenges with 5. Oh, so okay, so most strategic was John. I mean, that makes sense. Gabe, and then the general as 3 most strategic. So that is interesting. So Gabe was the more strategic person of the season. I mean, I could definitely picture that. I mean, but I guess Gina just had more allies on the jury. I mean, we have Nalia kind of being the challenge piece of the season, winning 3 immunities. I mean, Gabe was right behind with 2. I mean, John too, and Sarah winning 1. So yeah, I mean that's it for this season of Survivor. I mean, obviously I'm planning to do this more in the future. Obviously, next up is Survivor Thailand. If you enjoy this content, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I have plenty of more edited stuff moving forward, coverage for Survivor, Big Brother, and Amazing Race. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But for now, that is the video. See ya.